Ing- Bahasa Indonesia bagus, so I need to speak in English. I hope you can hear me. Okay. As Professor Tony said, we should start from some human touch stories, not numbers. Maybe I can introduce myself. Um, my grandfather became 98 years old this year, and he was being in home care, but he could walk until 97. And he was the beneficiary of long-term care. And this year he moved to the care facilities. And you may be surprised, but he's still paying contributions to health insurance, long-term care insurance, and he's receiving pension. So when he received the pension every 2 months, his contribution rate amount is already deducted. So he doesn't know he's paying, right? But he's paying, that's why he can receive long-term care services. And he was born in 1926, I think. And when he became adult, he was about to go to the war, but he didn't go because the war finished. And when he was 34, age 34, the Japan started the National Universal Pension Scheme. That's why now he's receiving 80 million Indonesian rupiah every year. That is about 40% of minimum wage in Japan. So you can get some sense, right? That should happen in Indonesia. So I hope in the next anniversary, 70 years anniversary of Lembaga Demografi, I hope I can be invited here and then observe Indonesian people as receiving a pension, no matter what employment status they have and where they work, whatever age they are. I hope that everyone will be covered by the pension next 10 years time. That's my and I hope I can also sit together with you, Professor Toning here in the next anniversary. Oh, yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, okay, let me start. I would like to present a brief summary of what the ILO, International Labour Organization, presented to the government of Indonesia, workers and employers, how the pension should be reformed in the future. Next, please. And I don't want to present the demographic projections in front of demographers, but as you know, we have about 30 million older persons above the age 60 today. In 30 years' time, that number will increase to 70 millions. Next, please. That is enormous figure. But if we look at the number of people participating in the BPJS program, TASPEN, ASABRI, there are only 20 million, 21 million people paying contribution or participating in these schemes. And we can easily imagine what will happen to 70 million older persons in 30 years' time. They are most likely not covered because we can clearly see they are not contributing to the schemes. They are not the members. If we break down the labor structure here, there are about 65 million non-wage BPU, right, in Bahasa Indonesia, in the working age. And they don't even have the rights to participate in jaminan pension by law. They're legally excluded. They only have a chance to participate in a JHT, Jaminan Hari Tua, on a voluntary basis. But people are, if they have a choice, they don't want to pay, right? Because they think about today rather than tomorrow. So the states need to control people's spending by collecting contribution on tax to finance the future value or future pension. That is the pension system in the world. I also want to highlight to the government officials here, and not here, I mean in this country, there are about 30 million housewives and husbands, and 27 million of housewives, women. They don't even have rights to participate in any of these schemes. they'll be equally become old, and they will have to probably pay long-term care themselves or their children. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. But if we look at the ASEAN member states, several countries providing good pensions. Brunei, Timor-Leste have 100% coverage of older persons about the retirement age. I can tell you why later. Thailand is catching up next. Vietnam has just reformed the pension system this year with the ILO recommendation as well. So they are catching up anytime soon. Indonesia's coverage is third from the bottom. Only 15% of populations above the pension age is receiving pension. Next, please. This is ILO statistics. The common message from workers and employers like this. Indonesia is quite unique, different from other countries. We cannot copy from other countries. And we have the large informal economy. Okay, let's move on to the next slides. The ILO created the figure and reported to the SDG indicator. That is called the proportion of informal employment in the informal economy. Every country has different definitions, so we created a uniform definition to compare the informality. Timor-Leste has an equal level of informality to Indonesia, 80%, but they had 100% coverage of the pension, and 69% Thailand, Vietnam, right? They have a quite similar level of informality to Indonesia. Next, please, Pat. Here's a secret. In Brunei, when the people become older than age 60, they can be automatically granted pensions by the states. The amount is about 50% of minimum wage. So it's fully funded by the states. So of course it's 100% coverage because age is only the criteria. Next, please. Timor-Leste has a similar schemes. Age is only the criteria, and older persons can receive 40% of minimum wage to 60% of minimum wage, automatic. They will get it in a bank account when you get old. Next, please. And many people say that Indonesia doesn't have that mineral resources to finance, and Indonesia has much more population. So we cannot copy them. That's how my colleagues tell me. Then many workers and employers tell me when I talk to them, oh, we cannot afford to pay more contributions. Okay, I can show you this. Indonesian people are paying the least in the ASEAN member states. Singaporeans are paying 37% of wage to pension alone, Central Provident Fund. It's precisely speaking, it's a saving model, just like JHT, defined contribution. Malaysia copies Singapore model, so similar amount, 24%. Vietnam's defined benefit schemes, it's more like a Japanese system, 22%. But Indonesian people are paying 8.7% in total. So we don't look at tax rates, but if we only look at contribution rate to the pension funds, Indonesian people may have to pay a bit more. That's our recommendation. Next, please. And you know the layers, Jaminan Pension and JHT. And next, please. Yeah, next, please. Next. Yeah. We think just like Brunei or Timor-Leste, that is one option that Indonesia could think about. Create a universal social, we call it social pension, pension social. Age is only the criteria and provide the flat benefit to all older citizens in Indonesia. That is one option Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Brunei adopted in this region. We calculated every Indonesian citizen could receive 500,000 rupiah today if they become, age 60 or 65, 75 or 70 from the states, fully funded by the states. That is one option. If you work in a company, you are, of course, participating in the Jaminan pension, so that will be top up. So people have incentive to get a good job in the company. If you want to have more pension or savings income, you can also have a Jaminan Harigo option as an option. But the basic regular income can be guaranteed by just like this. And then how much does it cost? And then our actuaries calculated the cost, and that would be 120 trillion per year, rupiah per year. That is about 20%, I think 20% of Bank Social annual budget this year. It may be too much, right? And then many people told us, then we cost it. Why don't we just start from 75 years old and gradually reduce down to 65 years old? If Indonesia starts such a scheme, 500,000 rupiah every month, at age 75, the cost on the states will be 36 trillion rupiah. That is half the budget of PBE JKN or half the budget of PKH. So it's just a matter of priority. Is it a priority to finance pension or not? You know, budget of the Bank Social is about 500 trillion. How can we allocate the budget? I think that is the main question to create a good pension here or not. Next, please. Next. Yeah. Just for your information, I only have 3 minutes. So this is a Japanese pension system that my grandfather, by the way, his profession was a self-employed farmer, the first generation self-employed farmer. He cultivated, cut the tree and opened the land, and he cultivated. Okay, he's one of 10 sons of other farmers. And he was participating in the Jaminan Pension National at the bottom line. When he became age 20, he had to start contributing to Jaminan Pension National. It's a half contributory and then half state budget. So 50% of expenditure of this layer are paid by the states from the tax. And then half of this layer is paid by the contributory fund. So it's a mixed scheme. It's not a PBE because the PBE is a contribution subsidy, right? But the government is providing a benefit subsidy, expenditure subsidy. Slight different. But in Japan, all people, all citizens become obliged to pay contribution to this layer when you become age 20. If you're a college student, you're exempted. But many people want to participate because they know your pension will be smaller if I don't pay. So people want to pay because they know their parents told their children, you should pay because their parents are receiving pensions from here. So they know. That's also family education for us. Next, please. Ministry of Finance told us pension social model, fully tax funded, is not good for Indonesia. Minister of Finance colleagues told me. Why? Because they want to educate Indonesian people the meaning of contribution. You pay and you get. Not always a state provide pension all the time. Okay, then we came up. Why don't we just do the cost analysis? What if Indonesia could completely copy Japanese model? It's a half contribution, half state budget. And this is our result of the calculation. You cannot see here because I'm here. Basically, every month, Indonesian citizens will have to pay 300,000 rupiah, no matter what employment status you have, unemployed, housewife, you have to pay when you become age 20. That's a citizen's obligation. And then when you retire at the age 60, 65, you will start receiving 1 million rupiah. If you today, right? But with inflation, wage growth, it will go up and up every year automatically. You may think 300,000 rupiah is not possible for many farmers, for example. We always have an option. you need to report to BPJS, or I cannot afford to pay. Okay, exemption. You don't have to pay this month. But as I said, state will pay half, right? So your credit is accumulated, half the credit. You get half the credit. So as I said, 1 minute to complete, sorry. As I said, my grandfather is currently receiving 80 million rupiah in Japan every year. But even if he didn't pay at all contribution, he could have received 40 million Indonesian rupiah because the state budget will be provided half. So this is the model. But people still have incentive. They know that if they pay, they will get double. If they don't pay, they will only get 40 million. So they know this. That's why people pay. Anyway, I think I will come back to the very last slide to conclude. Next. Before. Yeah, here's the last one. I just you may wonder I have this slide. Who will pay then the 50% pension by the tax? Here is a clue. 10 years ago, Japanese workers and employees negotiated with the government. When the government increased VAT, value-added tax, from 5 to 8%, you should earmark this collected tax from the people for the pensions, Social Security. So that 50% is partially subsidized using this earmark tax. And in Indonesia, the government increased VAT to 11% 2 years ago. And in January next year, the government will increase another 1% to 12%. And according to the ministry, coordinating ministry, that will generate another 70 trillion rupiah collecting from all people in Indonesia. So that may be one option to find such a layer. As I said, 36 trillion rupiah will be sufficient to pay 500,000 rupiah to all the citizens above 75. 70 trillion rupiah from value tax next year will be sufficient. So that is my last slide. But I hope my presentation was okay and not very provocative and useful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ipe. And for me, it's really provocative actually, but in a positive way, because again, in the second part of our discussion today, you highlight the importance of pension fund ya. Dana pensiun atau pensiun ya. Jadi tadi pembabakan yang kedua yang penting setelah tadi long term care, pensiun karena sekarang harus disiapkan. Tadi IP udah memberi beberapa opsi model ya yang mungkin bisa kita coba pikirkan lebih jauh. So, Bapak Ibu tadi udah lihat ya pembabakan yang terakhir dramatis. Ya. Mungkin menarik karena lagi-lagi mungkin ini cara lain ya buat kita melihat ini tidak hanya tadi dengan angka-angka. Bu Tuning sudah menampilkan tren dan juga membuka dengan long term care. IP already introduced us with one particular issue on pension. It's very important too ya untuk menyiapkan pensiun mulai dari sekarang. Dan Kak Turo tadi membahas institusi mungkin ya kalau Bapak Ibu melihat institusi lembaga-lembaga apa yang sebenarnya kita perlukan menyiapkan sistem dan juga mengantisipasi lebih banyak lagi isu tidak hanya pension fund, tidak hanya tentang long term care tapi ada skill gap. Ada isu-isu kesehatan yang belum berkesempatan kita diskusikan hari ini. Di seri berikutnya LD akan membahas ini. Dan tentunya tadi penutup dengan kisah Budi dan Tono yang bisa jadi model kisah di masa depan Indonesia tentang bagaimana kita mengantisipasi isu seperti Indonesia. Oke, itu aja. Yang sekarang kita buka adalah sesi diskusi ya. Beberapa pertanyaan saya undang Bapak Ibu untuk menyampaikan pertanyaan ke para narasumber kita, ke Bu Tuning, ke IP, ke Pak Turo. 2 pertanyaan. Saya buka, silakan. Ada yang ingin bertanya, menyampaikan ide atau klarifikasi? Atau mulai berasa gloomy nih? Yang rambutnya perak, silver generation saya udah termasuk. Oke, 1 pertanyaan. Ada lagi? Atau coba kita buka dulu 1 pertanyaan, silakan. Ada 1 lagi. Oh, di belakang lagi ada 1, ada 2 udah. Mas Nur Hadi. Ya, Mas Nur Hadi satu dan tadi ada Kak Elda yang mau bertanya juga. Ya, silakan Mas Nur Hadi.
Terkait isu pensiun, sebenarnya salah satu hal yang perlu diperhatikan juga terkait dengan ketegasan dari pemerintah. Contohnya soal JT, jaminan dari kebutuhan. Jaminan dari kebutuhan itu seharusnya diambil saat pensiun. Tapi kebijakan pada saat ini adalah JT yang diambil saat pekerja atau karyawan terkena PHK. Dan tidak bosan antara tujuan dari JT dan pelaksanaannya. Ini mungkin nanti bisa dengan memberikan komentar terkait bagaimana pemerintah seharusnya tegas dalam melaksanakan kebijakan. Yang kedua terkait dengan model Jepang, ini menarik. Jepang bisa memberikan pensiun pada seluruh pekerjanya dengan memberikan pensiun dengan membayar iuran dan juga dari bagaimana dengan kondisi Indonesia saat ini, karena dengan kondisi seperti adanya untuk kesehatan itu juga banyak penduduk yang tidak bisa bayar dan maka kalau kita menggunakan model Jepang itu mereka yang miskin juga ditanggung.
Oke, mungkin langsung ya pertanyaan kedua dari Kak Elda. Silakan.
Saya ingin tanya soal waktu cepat sekali dan soal community based bisa diaplikasikan ke ya terkait pendanaan bagaimana karena tadi cepat saya tertarik apakah itu benar-benar bisa diimplementasi oleh Indonesia dan untuk kasus Jepang tadi saya tidak salah tangkap setiap orang membayar sekitar 300.000 itu benar tidak? Ya, bagaimana dengan inequality gitu kan? Karena walaupun sebagian di bawah pastinya tidak adil kalau yang kurang mampu itu membayar lebih mahal. Apakah itu bisa diputuskan dalam model yang ini dan apakah ada perhitungan yang menunjukkan bahwa kita bisa memodifikasi dalam baik untuk lebih mampu membayar lebih banyak. Itu dari
Oke, terima kasih banyak Kak Elda. Mungkin mohon izin Bu Tuning, saya mau request IP dulu ya. I would like to ask IP to respond first because yes, I would like to kindly ask your response first, IP, because I think there are two questions directly targeted to you, especially learning from Japan experience, right? Especially related to at least the first questions related to issue that in Indonesia system we are somehow changing the idea that you are allowed to JHT only allowed to get it at the end, but Indonesia somehow modify it, and how to deal with it. And the second question is actually how to anticipate the inequality of income if we have to force like a fixed payment of for the JHT.
Yeah. Okay. For P2SK bill has passed. P2SK, how do you call it in Indonesia? The financial sector, strengthening financial sector reform law or something. And the Ministry of Finance is currently drafting the government PP, government regulations to change, reform JP and JHT. And if I understand correctly, part of the discussion is to terminate the option of early withdrawal of JHT funds. I think that is the right way. to go for, because that is for old age saving. That's my first response. And but as you may also know, workers went on the street to protest 3 times at least in the last decade, and then the government revoked such a change again and again. So they couldn't make it after they created the regulations. But can they do it this time? It's not a really technical discussion. It's just a matter of industrial negotiation discussions. So I cannot predict what will happen. But technically, I think that is the right way. Secondly, I showed you the contribution rate of Singapore, Malaysia. That is a similar model to JHT. They pay 38%, 24% to JHT in those countries. That will create larger inequality in our view. Because if you are rich enough, you pay a lot of money, and 38% of 100 million is different from 38% of 1 million, right? So that is their model. But the Japanese model is more a kind of equal in a way, because the funds, collected fund is pulled in one big account, state accounts. But the JHT accounts is individual account. So everyone has a bank account. So if you have a lot of money in your accounts, you will get a lot of money in old age. But from the ILO's perspectives, like a Jaminan pension or Japanese Jaminan Pension National is more equitable or equal for many people, because you know, rich people and the poor people, middle classes are paying in the same account, bank account, and then people will get the promised amount, like 40% of a minimum wage in the future, right? So the benefit is promised. So we call it the benefit, defined benefit model. So it's more equal. And last but not least, if you cannot pay contribution to Japanese pension system, even though it's mandatory, you can always report to BPJS in Japan and then explain, I'm poor. Can I get a waiver, contribution waiver? Okay, you don't have to pay this month, but you will still get half the credit. The government will still, you know, accumulating credit in a way. So Indonesia also has a PKH, right? So if we do it in Indonesia, for example, if people have a PKH card, this person can be in a difficult situation. So he or she could get, you know, waiver of the payment that month, for example. Practically, I think it would be possible, just a matter PKH, Family Hope Program, right? Yeah. So I think practically it will be possible. Technically, it's feasible. Financially, it's feasible in our analysis, but just a matter of whether people can understand, whether people want. We try to explain to workers, but some people understand. The others have more political positions. So yeah, I stop here. Otherwise, I may make a mistake.
Okay, thank you very much, Ipe. And yeah, it's quite direct answer. Yeah, it's clear. Maybe we can have another discussion later in detail, yeah, especially to learn about Japanese model on providing this. Brief aja Ibu, mungkin respon yang tadi pertanyaannya Elda terkait dengan Thailand experience, Bu.
Thank you, Elda. Memang ini belum jelas siapa yang harus bayar, tetapi pengelolaannya dihibahkan kepada pemerintah daerah bekerja sama dengan Kanwil Departemen Kesehatan di daerah. Nah, siapa yang bayar? Tetapi ada program pilot project di beberapa distrik, itu Tambun ya namanya. Itu ada skema yang full coverage, tetapi diberikan kepada 5 atau 4 kategori. Kategori 1, orang yang sangat-sangat memerlukan, dia homebound atau bedridden gitu ya. Terus yang kedua agak lemah dan yang sama sekali seperti lost memory yang nggak bisa berkomunikasi dan lain dengan skema-skema pembayaran benefit yang berbeda-beda. Makin berat, makin banyak. Dan ini belum universal coverage, tetapi baru percobaan. Namun dia sudah diakui oleh ADB bahwa Thailand is the best for community-based social long-term care. Jadi kita perlu pelajari lebih lanjut. Namun di daerah, di kampung-kampung yang saya lihat, itu disatukan dengan pemberdayaan ekonomi lansia di situ. Jadi ada cross subsidi begitu, sehingga masing-masing tambun ya ceritanya, apa tuh desa atau kecamatan itu bisa rada-rada mandiri dan pemerintah daerahnya memberi semacam backup. Saya kira seperti itu.
Oke, Ibu, terima kasih banyak. Panitia, waktu habis katanya. Oke. So, tenang Bapak Ibu tadi ya. Waktu habis mungkin untuk sesi kita hari ini. Karena tadi udah banyak sekali pembabakan topik yang kita dengar. Sekali lagi tadi ada long term care, bagaimana kita menyiapkan perawatan untuk lansia, menyiapkan dana pensiun, dan juga tadi ditutup dengan dramatis oleh Kak Turo, bagaimana kita melihat siklus hidup dua anak ya, yang mulainya sama tapi mungkin endingnya berbeda. Belum lagi bagaimana tantangan yang dihadapi oleh kedua anak tersebut tadi ya, terkait dengan bagaimana kehidupan lansia Indonesia di masa depan. So, mungkin sekali lagi ini bukan akhir dari topik kita ya. So, sangat welcome nanti kami undang kembali Bapak Ibu dalam diskusi yang lebih lanjut tentang Silver Generation, karena kita akan terus menghadapi fenomena mereka ke depannya. Dan sekali lagi terima kasih juga untuk para pembicara. Terima kasih Bu Tuning, Prof. Tuning. Thank you very much Ipe for your presentation today. Terima kasih Kak Turo. Terima kasih untuk Budi dan Tono yang sudah memberi kita kisah yang mudah-mudahan memicu perhatian dan fokus kita ke depan hingga 2045 nanti. Dan terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu atas perhatiannya. Saya kembalikan ke MC. Terima kasih.
Luar biasa sekali, boleh dong kita berikan tepuk tangan sekali lagi yang paling meriah untuk narasumber dan juga moderator kita yang sangat luar biasa. Dan mohon izin Prof dan juga kalian untuk bisa menerima informasi dari kami untuk bisa berada. Baik, ya tentunya perhatian ya. Kemarin dari sama-sama tentang pemaparan yang sangat luar biasa pada hari ini. Kita langsung akan dalam banyak berikutnya yaitu penyerahan ulangan untuk pencegah mata, di mana yang akan menyerahkan yaitu Dr. Sakti Cekawalanda. Boleh kita berikan tepuk tangan yang paling meriah. Dan juga ada Ibu Sedang Karwati. Baik. Ya. Yang pertama untuk Prof. Tuning terlebih dahulu nih. Boleh dong teman-teman fotografer diabadikan, boleh dong tepuk tangannya Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Luar biasa sekali. Untuk yang kedua, untuk Bapak Ite. Oke, let's take a picture together. 1, 2, 3. Luar biasa sekali. Dan untuk selanjutnya mungkin Ibu Enda izin untuk bisa memberikan juga kepada Pak Turo Ini dosen saya juga nih Bu. Tadi ada Budi ya Pak ya, ternyata. Luar biasa, 1, 2, 3. Baik, dan selanjutnya untuk moderator kita yang sangat luar biasa. Yang sekarang juga beliau menjabat sebagai Kepala Lembaga Demografi Fakultas Ekonomi Bisnis Universitas Indonesia. Izin Bu Enda untuk bisa menyerahkan kepada Pak Dewa. Baik, 1, 2, 3. Terima kasih banyak. Mohon izin untuk bisa berfoto bersama terlebih dahulu. Baik, kita berfoto bersama terlebih dahulu, silakan.